We often assume that intelligence makes life easier, that if someone is smart, they must be confident, social, and always ready to engage. But here's the truth. Many of the most thoughtful, intelligent people I've met often feel drained, resistant, or even resentful of constant socializing. And it's not because they don't care about people. It's because the way they see the world, the way they process experiences is profoundly different. For smart people, conversations aren't just words passing between mouths. They're lifelines of meaning. Small talk, while polite, feels empty to them. Talking about the weather, the latest sales, or repeating the same "how are you, I'm fine" cycle doesn't ignite their spirit. It leaves them restless, as if something important is missing. They thrive in conversations where vulnerability is allowed. They want to talk about what keeps you awake at night, the dreams you've hidden in your heart, the lessons you learned when life knocked you down. They want to wrestle with ideas, dive into big questions, and explore the mysteries of human nature. For them, words are sacred. They carry weight. A deep exchange with one genuine soul can feel more fulfilling than 100 casual conversations in a crowded room. It's not about being antisocial, it's about being allergic to the superficial. They would rather sit in silence with someone who gets them than spend hours in a noisy room filled with empty chatter. At the core, their craving for depth comes from an unshakable truth. Connection without honesty isn't connection at all, it's performance. And for them, pretending is far more exhausting than solitude. For smart people, walking into a crowded room isn't just entering a social space, it's stepping into a storm of signals, emotions, and unspoken tensions. Where others may hear a simple laugh, they hear the nervousness hiding underneath an eye. Where others see a smile, they notice the slight stiffness around the eyes that reveals discomfort. Their mind doesn't simply register what's happening, it analyzes, feels, and absorbs it. This heightened awareness is both a gift and a burden. On one hand, it makes them incredibly empathetic and sensitive to the needs of others. On the other hand, it comes at a cost. Their energy drains rapidly. What feels like a casual dinner party for someone else may feel like running an emotional marathon for them. Every voice, every gesture, every subtle shift in the atmosphere lands inside them. It's no wonder they often feel depleted after social gatherings. Unlike extroverts who may recharge by being around people, intelligent and introspective souls often need solitude to reset. Silence is not loneliness for them, it's medicine. Alone, they can release all the sensory and emotional data they've been carrying, like putting down a heavy backpack after a long hike. So when they decline an invitation or quietly slip away from a group, it isn't because they dislike people, it's because they value their energy as something precious, something not to be spent carelessly. And perhaps that's a lesson for all of us. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do for ourselves is recognize when we're empty and allow space to fill back up again. One of the quiet struggles of highly intelligent people is the deep and lingering feeling of being misunderstood. It isn't just about people disagreeing with them, it's about others not even seeing what they see. Their minds are wired to notice patterns, contradictions, and subtleties that many overlook. When they try to explain, it can come out as too complicated or too intense. They're often told they think too much or read too deeply into things. And while those words might sound harmless, they cut deeper than most people realize. Emma, Jean, being fluent in a language few around you understand, you try to share your thoughts, but the words fall flat, as if they've lost their meaning in translation. That's how smart people often feel. Over time, they learn to hold back their insights, to keep conversations light, to silence parts of themselves just to fit in. But that silence doesn't come without a cost. It feels like shrinking, like betraying their own depth for the sake of comfort. The truth is, they don't want to dominate conversations or appear superior. They just want to share honestly. They want someone to listen without dismissing them, someone to sit in the complexity with them rather than brushing it aside. And when that doesn't happen, the easiest choice becomes retreat. So, if you ever wonder why a smart friend grows quiet in a group, it may not be disinterest. It may be exhaustion from being misread. Sometimes the deepest kindness we can give is to truly listen, not to fix, not to rush, not to simplify, but simply to honor the fact that what they're sharing matters. For smart people, time isn't something to casually spend, it's something to fiercely protect. They see time as life itself, a non-renewable resource slipping through their hands moment by moment. Every hour given away to shallow interactions is an hour that could have been invested in creating, reflecting, learning, or simply resting in the quiet nourishment of solitude. This is why socializing for the sake of keeping up appearances feels so costly to them. It's not that they don't care about people, it's that they care about using their energy in ways that are aligned with meaning. They know their minds come alive when they're working on something that matters, writing, researching, solving problems, or pouring themselves into a passion. These aren't just hobbies, they're lifelines. And when meaningless social obligations intrude, it can feel like those lifelines are being tugged away. Some may interpret this as arrogance, but it's not about thinking they're too important. It's about knowing that their well-being depth ends on where they invest their minutes. They understand something many of us avoid. You can say yes to every invitation and still feel profoundly empty. So they choose carefully. They know that saying yes to one thing is always saying no to another, often something more nourishing. Guarding their time doesn't mean rejecting people, it means respecting themselves. And that is a form of wisdom. If you notice a smart person quietly declining more than they accept, don't take it as distance, take it as discernment. They're not building walls. They're choosing moment by moment to honor the most sacred currency they have, their time. One of the most surprising reasons smart people struggle with socializing is that they can't help but see beneath the surface. Where others take words and actions at face value, intelligent and emotionally perceptive people pick up on the subtle cracks, the forced laugh, the exaggerated story, the way someone brags a little too loudly to cover insecurity. They notice the masks people wear, and while most shrug them off, smart people can't unsee them. Their minds are constantly scanning for truth. They sense when someone is being polite but not sincere, when someone's "I'm fine" actually means "I'm hurting," or when confidence is just a carefully built armor. At first, this awareness may feel like a gift. It allows them to understand people more deeply, to empathize with hidden struggles, to sense what's unspoken. But over time, it becomes exhausting because once you start noticing masks, you realize how many people are wearing them. Social spaces can start to feel like stages full of performances rather than authentic exchanges. And for someone who values honesty and depth, that kind of environment feels suffocating. It's not that smart people expect everyone to pour out their deepest truths at every gathering. What they long for is sincerity, a conversation that doesn't hide behind pretense, a moment where vulnerability isn't treated as weakness. But when that's missing, when they're surrounded by walls disguised as smiles, for highly intelligent people, gossip and drama are more than just annoying. They feel toxic, like secondhand smoke filling the room. Where some find entertainment in whispering about who did what, smart people feel it as emotional pollution. They know that words have power. Gossip may look harmless on the surface, but underneath it chips away at trust, corrodes relationships, and fuels insecurity. Drama works the same way. The constant chaos, the cycles of conflict, the subtle games people play to seek attention, it feels exhausting to someone who values peace and truth. For a smart person, drama is like being caught in quicksand. No matter how entertaining it might appear to others, they see the cost, wasted time, fractured trust, and emotional energy poured into battles that don't really matter. Because of this, they instinctively withdraw when conversations turn toxic. They won't stick around to hear the juicy details because deep down they know if someone is gossiping to them, it won't be long before that same person is gossiping about them, and trust is too sacred to compromise. Smart people crave clarity, not confusion. They want conversations that build, not tear down. They want relationships that offer safety, not suspicion. So when they step away from gossip circles or avoid people who thrive on drama, it's not because they think they're better. It's because they know their emotional health can't thrive in polluted air. And maybe that's a lesson for all of us. If being in someone's presence consistently leaves us feeling heavy, anxious, or small, perhaps it's not our sensitivity that's the problem. Perhaps it's the environment we're standing in. Smart people simply have the courage to walk away sooner. Smart people often live with an inner world that few ever see. On the surface, they may look calm, collected, even quiet, but inside their minds are alive with constant motion. They're analyzing, questioning, imagining, and reflecting all at once. It's as if their thoughts never rest. Their inner world is a storm of ideas, memories, and what ifs. This isn't just about intelligence, it's about depth. They wrestle with the big questions most people avoid. They think about the meaning of life, the weight of choices, the fragility of time, the nature of morality. While others can glide through the surface of life, smart people are often pulled into the deeper waters, whether they want to or not. Carrying this kind of inner world can be beautiful. It makes them creative, empathetic, and visionary, but it can also be heavy. And when they step into a social setting, the weight they carry doesn't simply disappear. If anything, it makes light chatter feel even more jarring. Imagine holding a 1,000-piece puzzle in your arms and then being asked to casually juggle balloons. It feels mismatched, even absurd. This is why socializing can feel exhausting for them. Their energy is already tied up in wrestling with their inner dialogue, their self-reflections, their private battles. Adding the noise of a crowd or surface level conversations can feel like overload, not because they dislike people, but because they're already carrying so much unseen weight. The truth is, they don't always need someone to solve their inner storm. What they long for is someone who can simply sit with them in it, someone who doesn't fear their intensity, who doesn't tell them to stop overthinking, but instead honors the fact that their mind is always at work. So when they withdraw from socializing, it's not rejection, it's recovery. It's choosing stillness over noise, reflection over performance, solitude over scattering their energy even thinner. Their inner world is not a burden to be fixed. It's a landscape that simply requires space. For smart people, one of the greatest challenges in socializing is the gnawing fear of being accepted for the wrong reasons. They don't want to be liked for the mask they wear, the charming smile, the polite nod, the agreeable persona they slip on to make others comfortable. They want to be valued for who they really are, even in the moments when their thoughts are messy, their questions are unsettling, or their emotions don't fit neatly into small talk. The truth is, intelligent people often test relationships quietly. They'll share a vulnerable piece of themselves, not the polished, socially acceptable version, but something raw and real, to see if the other person can hold it. And too often they're met with discomfort, dismissal, or even judgment. Over time, this teaches them to retreat, to hold back, to present only the parts of themselves that others find easy to digest. But that's not connection, it's performance. And it leaves them feeling lonelier in a crowd than they ever would in solitude. Superficial acceptance can feel worse than rejection. Rejection is clear. It tells you where you stand. But being liked for a version of yourself that isn't true, that feels like erasure. It forces them into a painful question. Do people actually like me, or just the mask I wear to make them comfortable? This is why many smart people hesitate in social spaces. They know how easy it is to slip into roles and play along, but they also know how hollow it feels afterward. They would rather risk solitude than live with the ache of being unseen in plain sight. What they long for isn't 100 acquaintances who applaud their agreeable mask. It's a few kindred spirits who embrace their unfiltered soul. For them, one moment of genuine acceptance outweighs a lifetime of superficial approval. There's a particular kind of loneliness that smart people know all too well, the lonely inness of being surrounded by people who don't really see them. It's the hollow feeling of sitting at a table full of chatter, laughter, and smiles, yet feeling invisible, like you're present but not truly there. That loneliness cuts deeper than solitude ever could. For many, crowds equal connection. But for intelligent, deeply reflective people, crowds can highlight disconnection. They don't just want bodies around them. They want souls that reach back when they extend theirs. And when they don't find that, being in a crowd feels lonelier than sitting at home in silence. That's why solitude for them isn't scary. It's sacred. Being alone is not the same as being lonely. Alone, they can breathe without performing. Alone, they can think without interruption. Alone, they can honor their feelings without fearing judgment. Their solitude restores them, while a crowd can sometimes strip them of energy and authenticity. They know that true connection isn't about numbers, it's about depth. One person who listens with real presence can feel more fulfilling than 100 acquaintances who barely scratch the surface. That's why they choose carefully. They'd rather sit in quiet peace with themselves than force themselves to fit into places where they feel unseen. And maybe that's the hidden wisdom here. Smart people remind us that belonging isn't about proximity, it's about authenticity. You don't belong just because you're in the room. You belong when your soul feels recognized, respected, and welcomed. And until they find that kind of belonging, solitude will always feel like the safer, more honest choice. So when we see smart people step away from the party, decline the invitation, or grow quiet in a crowded room, it's easy to assume they're aloof, antisocial, or uninterested. But the truth is far more tender. Their withdrawal is not rejection, it's preservation. They value depth over chatter, truth over performance, and genuine connection over surface level acceptance. They guard their energy, their time, and their hearts, not because they don't care about people, but because they care so deeply. They want their presence to matter, their words to hold weight, and their relationships to be rooted in honesty. And until they find that kind of space, solitude often feels safer than pretending. Maybe that's the lesson for all of us. We don't need more noise, more drama, or more people to fill the room. What we need is more presence, more sincerity, more courage to show up as we are, without the masks, without the games. Because in the end, it's not about how many people you socialize with. It's about how deeply you connect. Smart people already know this truth. And perhaps if we listen closely, they're not pulling away from us. They're inviting us to rise higher with them, to create connections that are not just frequent, but meaningful, not just social, but soulful. And that's where real belonging begins.